Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make, particularly more novice and sometimes early intermediate lifters, with a conventional deadlift, is that they try to squat the weight up. And it's understandable. When you look at the lift, a lot of times people think in those terms and they're like, well, I want to take my lower back out of it and I want to get more quad involvement. And so they will tend to squat down really, really low and try to stand up with the weight. And I think further confusion gets created here for a couple of reasons. Because number one, the sumo deadlift is similar to a partial squat. Right? And so people will see people sumo deadlift, or they'll learn how to sumo deadlift without realizing that they are two very, very different movement patterns, and that the sumo deadlift is the squattiest of the deadlifts, but it's still a hip hinge. Also, it doesn't help that our society, and I can't speak for the whole world, but I can speak for the US, that we were taught all the time, live with your legs, not with your back. Right? That's what we're taught. Because they'll say things like, well, your legs are stronger than your back, which, of course, we laugh at when we get into actual training because it's like, oh, well, most of us can deadlift more than we squat. In my case, like 50 pounds difference, right? I squat mid 500s, deadlift a bit over 600 pounds. Back is stronger than my legs in that case. Now, there's leverage is different too. And something I want guys to think about when it comes to this, when they start squatting down and trying to squat the weight up, I want you guys to think about something when it comes to even the strength. Can you do more weight on a partial squat or a full squat? This is very, very simple for people. You'd be like, well, obviously a higher squat, we can squat more weight. Correct. Correct. In other words, if you squat 4 inches high, you can squat more weight than if you go all the way to parallel. And what you'll find is that if you do partial squats off of pins, what will you find over and over and over? And it's not just range of motion, by the way. It has to do with knee angles and torque. The deeper we bend the knee, the harder the squat gets. The less weight we can move. All right. Everyone who's done half squats knows this. Some of you guys out there are half squatting 400 pounds and struggle with 225 the second you have to go all the way down. So why would you try to turn your deadlift into a deep squat? Why would you want to have it be really squatty if you know that the deeper your squat goes, and that's what you're doing, you're taking it and saying, well, I'm going to try to squat the weight up, so let me go deeper with it. You're going to move less weight. You're going to move less weight. Furthermore, you're not going to be as tight. So if you're worried about hurting your back, you're getting looser. Now watch what I do. Right? You guys saw that right there. Watch what happens. My next pull, I walk over, I get tight, I pull the slack out of the bar, and then I pull myself in. Notice I don't squat down. I do the reverse of a hip hinge. It's a pull. Even the preloading is a pull. Hips are up high, then you pull the hips in using your arms against the bar. And then it's a hip hinge off the floor. There's not a lot of leg movement. There's some, because we don't want to do a stiff leg deadlift. There's obviously some bending in the knee. But you are using your back to lift the weight. Now, obviously, you're using a ton of other muscles. Your quads do contribute. Your hamstrings, glutes. All of that contributes. But it is very back dominant. It's very back dominant. That's the nature of the deadlift. Your back, your glutes, and your hamstrings doing most of the work. Now, the quads do help break it off the floor. But if you're already squatting, you're good to go. Right? If you already have big enough quads to squat, They're not really an issue there for you on the deadlift. But we're not squatting it up. The problem we have also with that is that some people will see some really fat strong men who do kind of squat the weight up. But I want you to think about something with that. Think about their stance, think about what they're doing, and the fact that they're using straps. If you're deadlifting with straps, it's not really a deadlift anymore. I know people get mad when I say that. It's not. You have different biomechanics. You're not worried about the neuromuscular efficiency from straps, from having to grip the bar. Bar path can be totally different. It's a different movement. It's not really a deadlift per se anymore. I promise you, to hook EMGs up on all the different muscles in the body, when you put straps on, you're going to get different activation. They're also doing double overhand with straps. They're not worried about tearing a bicep. You're like, well, why then are they squatted up if they're going to lift less weight? It's one of the things that we know about body fat. The higher your body fat gets, the more weight you can squat, especially the more abdominal fat you get. We know this from watching super heavyweight powerlifters. Deadlift goes down and a squat goes up. If you take a guy right now and you were to magically implant 50 pounds of fat in his waistline, give him a big old belly, his squat will go up and his deadlift will go down by default. Why? Because they squat off their belly. When your belly squeezes up against your quads and you have a big giant fat gut. Right? You have a big giant fat gut. It creates a big spring that can push your torso off your quads. Now, is it going to put 200 pounds of force? No. But it might add 50. Squishing your big belly against your quads. So what these guys are doing, who are doing that, where they kind of squat down, of course they have to use a wider stance, wider grip. They're squishing their belly up against their quads to use to create a spring. Therefore, they can overcome some of the negative effects they get from the stance and everything else being a problem with their belly. Right? And it overcomes some of the negatives that we get from squatting the weight up, because it's mechanically disadvantageous, right? We're at a disadvantage. I think I just made a word up. Disadvantageous. There we go. Be another Blaha, and there'll be memes everywhere. Blaha made up a stupid word. Kill him. But disadvantageous. Not to our advantage from a leverage position to squat it up. But if it lets you get your big old fat belly in there because you're at 30% body fat with a 45-inch waist, you can use that big old belly like a spring. Well, if you're at a healthy body fat, you don't have that big belly. So when you squat the weight up, you're purely at a mechanical disadvantage. It's not helping you. Not helping you. You're going to lift less weight. And that's the point that needs to be made very, very clear here. You are going to lift less weight and your deadlift's going to get loose. Okay? How do we get hurt on a deadlift when we get loose? Why is rep work with really heavy weight dangerous on the deadlift? Because we start getting loose as the reps go. And it's how you hurt your back. It's how we tear biceps. So if you squat the weight up, you are by default putting yourself into a bad position to where you cannot maintain tightness. I'm aware there are some athletes who are able to maintain tightness, some of these big fat strong men. You're not one of them. Most of you guys do not have their training experience and body awareness. You are going to struggle to stay tight. You're going to get loose. And when we get loose, that's when accidents happen. Okay, that's what makes the deadlift a dangerous exercise. The deadlift is an extremely safe exercise done correctly. It's fatigue and looseness that makes a deadlift so scary. That's where people get really, really hurt badly on this exercise. So if you're trying to squat the weight up, you have already put yourself specifically into the sort of positions that people get hurt in when they're tired or fatigued and not paying attention. So instead of by default just doing safe and accidentally going into a bad position, when you lose focus or get tired, people are just saying, I'm just going to just use the bad position all the time till I rip something, right? YOLO. Let's just go ahead and just do it upright. Don't need my biceps. I don't need my erectors. I don't need my discs. Fuck them. That's basically what they're saying. When in reality, they oftentimes think they're doing it to protect their back. Well, you're not. You're going to get hurt. Build your back up, make it strong, deadlift correctly. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.